I'm author Mark Muncy,
And I'm author Erika Lance.
and this is Eerie Travels. We're back. Oh my gosh. I'm so thrilled. We're here.
Yeah. Woo.
This has been wild and weird. And
It has been wild. And this is episode 4.
4 hours we will have completed by the end of this. So
It's more than 4 hours. You're not doing good maths.
so I whatever. It was supposed to be 4 hours by this time, but we've gone long a couple times. So
Yeah. We cannot be contained.
No, there's just too much to tell, these stories, and then the places you can travel to. That's I love that we're doing that. We give you the tale and then we give you the places to go. So it's like it's an Eerie Travels. It's kind of fun.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. True.
Yeah,
Okay. So what we're going to talk about cool things today, but what's new with you?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, the audiobook for Eerie Appalachia is out and about. So you can find that on your book listening choices. So if you want to hear more of me talking and rambling about monsters and legends and ghosts and dark history all up and down the Appalachian Trail, that's widely available now.
That is exciting.
I'm thrilled. And it was actually recorded deep in the Appalachian Mountains. So, hey, some authenticity there. So
did you have Bigfoot throw a rock at you?
I did not, sadly, although I did hear a female voice say leave, but that was Carrie in the other room telling me it was time to go to dinner. So, but
I was going to say, because as we know, if you hear that, you go.
And that's exactly what I did. I was like, yes, let's leave. So Cracker Barrel it is. Although, no, we went to Hillbilly Hibachi in Louisa. So there you go. Louisa, Kentucky, Hillbilly Hibachi. You're getting a free radio shout out. Thank you very much. So,
oh, wow.
I expect some extra yummy sauce when we get there. So,
yeah, time. I'm sure they're going to remember this next time you go, and you got to go. I mentioned you on my podcast. Give me some yum sauce.
Yes. What was funny is I took a picture of them while we were there, and I'm up by their sign. And then I posted and I linked, I was like, hey, great food, all this. And then the next day, their Facebook page, that became their cover page, was the picture of me pointing at their sign. I'm like, wait a minute.
You're a celebrity, Mark. You're a celebrity. Of course they did that. Pretty soon, your face will be plastered on all weird roadside restaurants everywhere, up and down the Appalachians.
Suddenly, Muppet movie just flashed in my head, and I'm picturing Kermit the Frog and all the Hopper's frog's legs. I don't know why.
Why the hell did you go there?
I don't know. I went KFC, and then it turned into the KFC bucket, but it was the Kermit the Frog KFC bucket. So.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I need to get off of whatever little.
It was a bunny trail.
Right
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow, it's been a week. So what have you been up to?
Oh, I'm actually getting a new puppy, so I'm super excited. I got a puppy about 6 months ago, and I realized I jokingly say I need an emotional support puppy for my puppy, but it's actually that it's an English Shepherd puppy, and he needs way more attention and play than I think is humanly possible for me. So I'm going to get him another puppy to play with. So that little nugget is going to be showing up here shortly. So I'm sure in future episodes, we'll just have a calamity of dogs. So,
well, yeah, between you and the producer in the other room, our wonderful Callie and Pockets, they can interact with your puppy of choice. So,
which would be perfect. And they shouldn't interact with your puppy.
Oh yeah. My wonderful scaly cat, Claudius, the Wonder Lizard. Yeah. Because I'm allergic to all the fuzzy things. That's what most people don't know, is I'm allergic to all the fuzzy things. So that's why my wife had to raise lizards and jumping spiders. So
I don't think that's the only reason, because I think she enjoys lizards and jumping spiders.
I think it was the fact that she was forced into it and now loves it, but that is her personality. And she just finished illustrating Unnatural Ohio for another couple authors. So that those illustrations should be coming up soon on the Eerie Travels website. So
that's very cool. Yeah, we can check out all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
but we have breaking news this episode.
I was going to ask. I thought there was breaking news. What is the breaking news?
We need like a breaking news, one of those classic television, breaking news things. Maybe in the future.
What are you going to stop and let it roll into this? Like,
yeah, exactly. Breaking news.
Okay, all right. Callie, could you put on your ever-growing list that Mark needs a and added to
it? or the old ticker tape. Or something like that. So it will go.
You got to get to the breaking news. What the heck is the breaking news?
So NASA, which I always love. I love my space stuff. I love my universal stuff. Well, we found out, that one of the planets in our solar system might be inhabited. Well, we've known Earth's been inhabited for a little while. Whether it's intelligent life, we don't know. But this planet also may be inhabited, and it's not where we've sent the last couple landers.
So it's not Mars.
It's not Mars. The chances of anything coming from Mars are 1,000,000 to 1. Thank you, Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds. But and that'll be stuck in my my kid's head for the rest of the show. No, it's they went to Venus and they started doing a survey of the sky there, and they were doing some explorations of the chemicals and stuff, and then they started fiddling with it using climate modeling for Earth. And suddenly some things started making sense about Venus. Now we know Venus is completely inhospitable, chlorine gas in the sky and all this other terrible stuff. It's super hot. It rotates so slowly that, a day there is like 200 days on Earth in the sun. That means the backside is 200 days in the darkness. It's crazy. Completely inhospitable to life as we know it. But that's the important thing, life as we know it. But what we've realized with this climate modeling is that it may have been habitable for a lot longer than we thought, because we know there were oceans on that planet, but we don't know how long they were there, and they pretty much dried up. But guess what? Now we're realizing they may have been there a long time. Using the climate modeling, they realized these oceans may have been there for billions of years, and that meant life could have happened.
Well, let me just let's all take a little journey, shall we, here to the I don't care if you don't believe in global warming, I'm going to bring this up. There is a point in time, not in the close future here, that if things continue as they are, eventually our oceans will disappear and so forth and so on. And people will do this to believe for 1 second that we are the only type of life form that would be on this planet and in this, galaxies and universes would be so nutso. Like people go, do you believe in aliens? If you do not believe that there could be something else out in this vast array of space, I think you're an idiot. Like, sorry, that's my personal opinion.
No, and whether they came here or not, that's a little tricky. They've got to have some pretty good stuff to get here. But this is our neighbor. This is our next door neighbor, and made of the same stuff we're made of. So of course it's possible. And now they're realizing it could be even longer, we're talking hundreds of millions of years that this thing could have been inhabited, and, with oceans and coolness. Now, again, global warming aside, we've had ice ages, we've had periods of solar extremities that heat up the whole solar system, and then it shrinks back away. So yes, at some point, our sun is going to disappear. It is going to blow up. We know it happens. That's what happens to every sun in the universe. Is that going to happen to us anytime soon? Hopefully not, but we don't know, because we really don't know how these things work 100%. So at some point, we do have to get away from here. And that's also going to happen with everybody else. So it's going to everybody's got to get away. So yeah, it's possible things have flown by us. But and that's just it. The big thing with this, though, I think the takeaway from this is that they think there might still be some form of life in those clouds that were once part of the oceans, that life may have. Now we're talking bacterial stuff like that, but there's still possible signs of it. So we are finally sending some more craft to Venus that we had just kind of written off as that inhospitable place that we were never ever going to go. So, but now it's, hey, let's send some stuff that way. Why not?
I think that's a great idea. And I sort of can't, I mean, with more and more what's being, and I know we have future episodes, we're going to talk about aliens and stuff, but more and more what's kind of being released from the government are the things that are actually out there. And with the stuff that we're able to use to detect things and things, you know, you've just got to go there.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, the some of the stuff, one of the big gas up there is the phosphine and stuff, and they're thinking that might be like you know, the strange life might be in that, because we've seen life forms in phosphine in some of our caves and some of our ecosystems that are some extreme ecosystems on Earth. So I'm super excited to see, because I'm a big nerd, and I love this stuff, and I'm never afraid of the dark because I so love the stars. So it's
see, we could have ended on that line, Mark. What the heck?
I should have saved that I'll save that for a future thing. So, but
yes, but I mean, I think it's very true, and I can't wait, because look, we've gotten and been able to do space travel. We've gotten, you know, it's been satellites and things like that, but we've launched them we've probed this universe pretty far. So to think that other life forms couldn't have gotten to that point and done that, silliness. Anyway. Okay, so what are we talking about today?
Oh yeah, we got to do our tale today. Our tale, but this is definitely for those of you who love your monsters. We're finally talking a cryptid again. I know you've been waiting. We haven't really done a full cryptid episode, but now this one also is going to be our Eerie Travels take on cryptids. So we are going to talk about a creature that I love nearly and dearly, and I love dragons. Do you like dragons?
I love dragons.
I know you were a big Game of Thrones fan. So
up
until late season. So yeah, all right. So but did you ever play Dungeons and Dragons?
Oh my goodness, I was an OG nerd before it was
cool, right?
Yeah. We weren't cool. We were shoved into lockers. Like that was
I remember we were rewatching E.T. not too long ago, and it was funny because, oh, look at the nerds playing Dungeons and Dragons. Everybody was making fun of them because there's a scene where they're playing Dungeons and Dragons. But now Stranger Things, it's almost the exact same scene, and everybody's like, oh, how cool, they're playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes, I agree. I remember when I saw it in Stranger Things, and I'm like, we have arrived.
I remember the X-Files, there was an episode where they were playing Dungeons and Dragons. Well, the lone gunmen were playing Dungeons and Dragons in an episode, and I was like, yes, they finally mentioned us on a television.
Hey, I was playing Dungeons and Dragons back when, if you mentioned you were playing Dungeons and Dragons, people thought you were in a satanic cult.
Yep, satanic band.
That's a future episode, the satanic cult of Dungeons and Dragons.
I was in West Virginia at the time. My Dungeons and Dragons club got shut down, and then I was able to turn it around and made it a comic book club where we played Marvel superheroes, which was Dungeons and Dragons, but Marvel. It's the way it is. But anyway, dragons, right? They've been around.
Dragons.
Right. They've been around for as long as man has talked. I mean, there are several things on this earth that every single group of people on the planet have a collective memory of. And one of those is a great flood. Another one of those are vampires. Another one of those are shape changers. And the last one is the dragons. And so even the Muncy Bushmen that had never seen outside life had words for all of those things. Now, modern skeptics and scientists will say, oh, that's because it was just to make they were talking about dinosaur bones and they were justifying them. Obviously this was a great lizard.
Because they were just laying about the place.
Exactly, because that's what dinosaur bones were everywhere, and we just were stepping all over them. But no, it's why were some of these people had these legends? Why did they have these stories? Because they had encounters with them. And I like to think we as a species sometimes forget these things, that, and then they come back to us as myth. They come back to us as folklore. And I think, yes, sometimes people made up stories about dragon bones. There's a famous place in Florida called Devil's Millhopper, which is a sinkhole on top of another sinkhole. And down at the bottom was it was like a tar pit. So a lot of dinosaurs got stuck down there. So when the settlers get there, they see these weird bones and this hole in the ground, which is not common in Florida. They suddenly said, oh, it's the portal to hell. Look at those demon bones. They didn't say dragons. They said demons. And, so again, you look at a dinosaur bone. How do you know it's a serpent? How do you know it's a snake? How do you know it's a dragon? Well, I think
most cultures, there's some universal things about dragons and things that were true about dragons that do not fit the dinosaur narrative at all. Yes. Like, even though we're learning about new and different dinosaurs, and that's really neat. And by the way, people should look up raptors if they just follow the Jurassic Park movie, because that's not what they look like. Nope. But at all. But you look at what cultures, and I know we're going to talk about this, represent as a dragon, and it's not like just a giant snake. There's a very specific thing, whether it's a flight dragon with wings or not, that represents a dragon. Right. And it's absolutely not anything that looks like a dinosaur.
No. And how many tales do we have of people killing dragons and fighting dragons and slaying dragons? And we got St. George, of course, probably the most famous in of European style lore. And he goes into a cave and kills a dragon, which in what is now modern day Romania. And I've been in that cave. They call it St. George's Cave. And if there was ever going to be a dragon, it would have been in there. I mean, that looks like you're literally walking onto the set of the old 80s Dragon Slayer, the movie. And it's, I was like, oh man, is Vercingetorix going to come out of here? This is crazy. It's an amazing place. And so you start looking at it and you start reading the original accounts and you realize this is not folklore. This is not parable. This happened. We were being terrorized by this thing. And the thing he killed, it's not like what we think of as a modern movie dragon. It's not a Drogo or, something like that, or Smog or Smaug. It's like a Komodo dragon style thing. And then we have the Komodo dragons now. These were mythical creatures up until we finally went to the area where they were and discovered them. And this stuff is all over the world. We've got of course, the most famous being, the Chinese dragons, and, and supposedly the Great Wall of China was to, keep out a dragon, or the Mongols, who knows? But it was, there are all these wonderful stories. There's the tower that was built in Babylon that was supposedly had a serpent crawling around it. And then, of course, in Egypt, you had the Tower of Set, where they worshiped the snake-headed god. All this amazing stuff. Okay, so where's Mark going with all this, right? Well,
I was pretty good with where we were going, but I'm sure there's an actual destination.
All right, I'm sure we're getting there. In the US, all right, our native peoples had three major components to their world, right? They had the lords of the sky, which were the Thunderbirds, right? And that's what we would consider pterodactyls, or something like that, but completely different. So
we'll do another episode on the Thunderbirds, because there has been actually some proof of a giant eagle type thing. So Terror in the Skies,
future episode, Callie, put that on the list. But the next, then you have the water is ruled by the underwater panther, which is a great serpent with horned head and a tail that's spiked and makes whirlpools and will drown you. And then the lord of the underworld of the natives is the Great Serpent, which is this very long snake with one eye, and it rules all the underworld. It lives in the caves, it lives in the earth. Don't go in the earth. And also, don't go in the water. The underwater panther will get you, Mishipishu, and he will eat you unless you give him offerings. So if you throw in copper, he likes copper. So if you throw in copper, it's okay. And other sacrifices that we will not mention on the podcast, but might involve our four-legged friends, or two-legged. But anyway, of somebody you didn't like, because that guy's a jerk. He's stealing our cable. Let's throw him in, and we'll have a safe passage across Lake Erie.
Boy, we'd have a different society if we could just sacrifice those people that steal our cable.
He got my Wi-Fi password. He got my Netflix password. He's going in. It's that way we can safely cross Lake Erie. But anyway, this is crazy, right? We've got all these beliefs of this stuff. So one of the places in North America that is probably considered one of the most profound, archaeological sites, and that is Serpent Mound, and that is in Ohio, and it is this. Up on top of this ridge, there is a great serpent carved into the ridge. Now, of course, when European settlers come into the area, they see it, they immediately think, oh, it's a snake. And it's got this bulb head, and it's like, oh, it's eating an apple. So they worshiped, they must have worshiped the snake eating the apple, or, they know of the Bible. Well, that's our interpretation, because what happens is if you actually look at it, it is the great serpent with its big eye. That's, instead of a mouth eating an apple, it is the eye, and just pieces of it had washed away because it is old. And so of course we don't know all about it. It's the cultures that created this thing. Is either the Adena culture or the Fort Ancient culture, and those are named not because one's older than the other. It's just that's the name of the towns where their original mounds were found. But again, it's kind of, was it two different people, or was it people moving through different eras of society? And also the Hopewell there too, but the mound builders. And the thing is, it's like us going from an agrarian society to an industrial society. We evolved, we've become different people. So I think that is more historically what happened, but archaeologists still aren't sure if they were just different people who moved in, wiped out the previous tribe, and and resettled everything. But the reason we don't know much about this mound is it's not a burial mound. There's no artifacts anywhere in this mound. It is just earthworks built to be seen from above, and it lines up perfectly with the summer solstice. The head is right at the summer solstice. The tail is right at the winter solstice. It's amazing how this thing is built, and it is huge, crazy, and it is marking the Great Serpent. Now, the reason we bring it up is there were supposedly sightings of this Great Serpent in the area. This is the cryptid part where it kind of blends with the natural part. We've got history, but we've also got serpent sightings. Now, what goes underneath all these mountains? The Mammoth Cave System. It is the largest cave system in the world, and it is getting bigger every day. Not that it's getting bigger, it's just we haven't found the ends of it. We send people in there every weekend exploring this place and mapping new caves and new positions, and they'll go through pieces that are, this tiny. I don't know how people get through there, but they do. And then they come into rooms that are as big as a cathedral. And, and we don't know. We're still exploring this stuff. And down there, we're finding new life forms. Constant. It's almost as much as the ocean. I think this is the area that scares me, the things down in the deep, right? Drums in the deep. What are we going to find down there? And
well, we found a giant squid. Remember that, when we were kids, Mark, as denoted by the color of our hair, when you guys see us in photographs, when we were kids, there was tales of a giant squid. There was, sailor stories of a giant squid and stuff like that. And now with all the underwater cameras and being able to go deeper, they found the giant squid that could technically, if it put itself to work, take down a ship. They're that big,
Yep. And we're finding, life down there that has never seen the sun. And, and that stuff is, how is it living down there but it is. And, you know, we've got blind skinks. We've got all these new animals that we're discovering. But if you match up the Mammoth Cave system with like Bigfoot sightings, with like other cryptid sightings, particularly lake monsters, it suddenly looks like, wait a minute, this is the Mammoth Cave system. These things could come in and out of the caves, and these could be life forms in the caves. Now, dragons live in dungeons. Dragons live in caves, according to our mythology. So did we chase them into the caves? The natives had tons of stories of fighting great serpents and great lizards and chasing them into the earth. And this is the tip of the iceberg. And we're going to talk about another mound that's not too far from Serpent Mound. But I think we need to talk about something a little scarier first, and that is some crash commercialism. I think we need to break.
We can do crash commercialism, but I do have some thoughts I would like to contribute to the dragon realm when we get back. So, yes. Travelers, we'll be right back after this commercialism.
Eerie, Appalachia. Gear up for a frightful jaunt into the darkest reaches of the ancient Appalachians. Folks deep within the Appalachian hollers lean close to the campfire to share stories of the inexplicable with hushed awe. Monsters rumbling in the hills, strange lights darting through the pitch-black night sky, horrible occurrences almost ineffable in their bizarre tragedy. Tall tales, you might say. Tell that to the Flatwoods monster in Braxton County, West Virginia, or the Goat Man of Louisville. Look into his humanoid eyes and let him know you don't believe. And what of those apparitions in Mammoth Cave's Corpse Rock, or the Satan spawn known as the Jersey Devil? How do you respond when confronted by these mysteries? From the metaphysical energy that swirls near Serpent Mound in Ohio to Point Pleasant's Mothman legacy, Mark Muncy and Carrie Schultz explore the dark history lurking in the shadows of Appalachia. Read by Mark Muncy, author and experts on strange folklore with appearances on shows such as Ancient Aliens, The Curse of Robert the Doll, and many, many more.
Greetings, mortals and others. I'm Dick Terhune, the voice from hell. I work with haunted attractions all over the US, Canada, and Europe to increase audiences and enhance their experience with highly effective commercials, narrations, animatronic character voices, whatever your dark heart desires. Let me help you do more, scare more, profit more. Find out more at Voice from Hell on Facebook and at voicefromhell.com.
And we're back.
We're back. Goodness. I hope people feel fully commercialed.
I do too. I hope support our sponsors, please. They work hard, even though a couple of them are us. But yeah. But we appreciate it. So if you would like to sponsor us, please, drop us an email and we will be happy to talk to you. So I'll have our people talk to your people and we'll make things happen. So
we legitimately have people.
Yes,
and they're
we do.
on this podcast helping us. So.
Crazy. This is weird. I'm not used to this stuff. It's like being a guest speaker at the Mothman Festival. I'm not used to being like guest at anything. I'm always like down here in Florida. I'm just the old haunted house guy. So, but
that is not accurate at all, Mark. So enough about your soon-to-be overly inflated ego.
All right. Hey, if there's anything more important than my ego, I want it caught and shot now. I don't want it out there.
Well, it's dragons. If you can catch one,
yes. So let's talk about this one place that is near Serpent Mound. It is another mound.
Okay.
So you're still in Ohio. You're not going too far. And this one is called Alligator Mound. Okay. Why is it called Alligator Mound? Well, the settlers, when they got there, said that the original indigenous people told them it was called Alligator Mound. Well, there's a couple of things about Ohio that you should know. They don't have a heck of a lot of alligators, especially not back then. So now, when we did research for Freaky Florida many moons ago, we discovered a place there called the Miami Mystery Circle, which was an indigenous site that predates just about anything in America. And it aligns celestially. There's all these weird holes. They thought it was tent posts. But they found basalt axe heads that do come from the Ohio region of the mound builders. So maybe there was a trading network. We thought these were just hunter-gatherers. No, this was a vast trading network. So it's possible they'd heard about alligators or got some alligator stuff, but it's still weird. Now, if you look at the mound, Alligator Mound, it's not huge like Serpent Mound, but it is still a pretty impressive site. It has 4 legs, and it's got a big curly swishy tail. And then it has a head that's kind of stumpy with possibly horns. Now it's an effigy mound, so it's just dirt, but it looks like this. And again, nothing buried in it, so it's hard to date. Is it the Hopewell culture, the Adena culture, Fort Ancient culture? We don't know. It was built by the mound builders of Ohio. It's an old site. They did bulldoze part of it at one point to build roads nearby. It's terrible. So one of the front legs is missing bits of it. But when you look at it really, and you kind of look at it from above, knowing what we know now of the native cultures, it fits Mishipishu, the underwater panther, not an alligator. Now think about, you're an early settler and you come into this area as a European, and the native there, you go, what is that? And the native goes, oh, it is the great beast that lives in the waters, and its swirly tail creates whirlpools and kills you. And it has, and we call it the underwater panther or Mishipishu. And they're like, underwater panther. Well, so you've got a beast that lives in water. It's armored and it's got a big spiky tail. Oh, that's an alligator. And then they go, no, Mishipishu. And he goes, no, that's just that you don't have the word for it. Our word is alligator. And they go, okay, alligator. So that's why the settlers say, oh, it was Alligator Mound. No, it probably wasn't. It was probably underwater panther or Mishipishu. And so I think the reason the mound got named Alligator Mound is racism. But
inability to actually learn another language.
Yes, exactly. Cultural appropriation. Yay, we love this stuff. But now, what is this beast? Okay, it's the underwater panther. It lives in Lake Erie. It does all this stuff. So it's a crazy story, right? And then, again, Serpent Mound. It should be the Great Serpent Mound, not not the serpent from the Bible. The Great Serpent. This is part of native life. This is not, you can't say native myth or native folklore. You say native beliefs, because that's just the way it is. It's not, mythology. It's not religion. This is just the way. So the Great Serpent, the Great Serpent, Mishipishu running the waters. So now Alligator Mound is this. Now we go a little bit ahead, 1800s. And
I just want to say, I looked at a picture of it. No way in hell that was ever intended to be an alligator.
Alligator. It looks
you may
like,
continue.
Right. The head is crazy, and so the head looks different, all this stuff. So suddenly 1880s, we get an article from the town of Crosswick, which is not very far from there. Town of Crosswick had an encounter with something they did not understand. It's our favorite thing. 2 boys are out by the water. They're fishing, and something crawls up out of a hole in the ground. A great beast. They called it a snake or a lizard without legs, or a dragon. And the term dinosaur did exist at this time, but they didn't use that in this article or in any description of the beast. This thing has 4 legs. A snake with legs is what it's mostly called. So 4-legged creature with a swirly tail. Hey, does this sound familiar? And it's scaled, and it grabs one of the boys in its arms and runs away with him. So the other boy chases it, and it climbs a tree carrying the boy. And it's up in the tree, and it's hissing at the other boy. So the boy goes to get help, the loose one. I'm sure he was brave and trying to save his friend. No, he ran and went to get help, because this is a monster, and it's got his friend. The whole town shows up. Dozens of people witness this creature, and they try to get it out of the tree. They start hitting the tree with everything they can. It jumps down and runs, and the way they describe it running is like an alligator. It is like a creature, a serpent, but with legs running, and it runs to a giant cave entrance. It lets the boy loose as it runs into the caves. And then they sealed off that cave entrance and have never seen it again since. It is known as the Crosswick Serpent. And
Crosswick Serpent.
yes, the Crosswick Serpent. Now, that disappears from everything for about 100 years. Nobody talks about it. It's not like Roswell or Flatwoods Monster or Mothman. It just kind of disappears from history until we start piecing together Alligator Mound being Mississippi. And then some professors at the University of Ohio start doing some more research, and they start looking into Crosswick Serpent going, wait a minute, this is oddly similar. So this creature of Native American beliefs was probably real. And this was something they had to deal with and they had to fight. This is a creature in the water. This is a creature of the caves. This is a creature of the underworld. It's the alligator. It's the alligator mound. It's the underwater panther. It's real. This thing happened. And in our lifetimes, basically, not millions of years ago, thousands of years ago, 100 years ago, a little over 150, but still crazy, right?
No, it's nuts. I was just looking at a picture of it too, as you're telling this. And it's interesting because the description that was put together by the town folk at that time, it looks an awful like a Komodo dragon, but bigger.
Yeah,
it looks
exactly.
Tremendously like a Komodo dragon.
Exactly. And that's what Carrie, when she illustrated it for Eerie, Appalachia, she went full on. We had wonderful Claudius pose for it. And, but we gave it the swirly tail that is Mississippi's trademark of when it runs through the water, it makes whirlpools and sucks boats to their death. So,
it's really interesting because I think that you take these things and, we're talking about people who were in our country before we invaded, and the belief system, and you look at like in China and the dragons that they had in China, and it's true, even there were European dragons, and there are dragons everywhere of some kind or another, and you just have to wonder. So it's interesting is that there, you look into a lot of what is called folklore, right? And even I recently went to Iceland this, in 2022, we're just in the beginning of 2023, so I almost said this year. And I went to Iceland, and they have the hidden people, which are elves and gnomes and pixies and fairies, and they have amazing stories because they have all this land that has not been explored, not been corrupted, and so there was, there's a bunch of religions that go back to a time of magic, right? And there's thought processes around whether or not there have been, we talk about the Ice Age, we talk about different sort of chronological times for the planet, and there's science and stuff, but you go back to, is there truly magic in the world? You look at a lot of things I know we're going to cover when it comes to voodoos and Wiccans and druids and things like that. And that wasn't about just appeasing the gods. It was about the magic that was all around you, right? And so you take some of these creatures, which are more fantastical and magical if you believe in them, and you go, well, were they there? We were also, first of all, humans were much smaller in size. Like, we have grown leaps and bounds in the last couple of centuries size-wise. But if you look at anything dating back, 300, 400 years, 500 years, stuff like that, people were really tiny, like less than 4 feet. So perspective on things from, I'm 6 feet tall, perspective, I think you're 6 feet tall too, Mark. Well, yep. Yeah. It's
Callie in the other room is not 6 feet tall.
That's don't call out people's height. What are you doing? I'm just saying what we would see as a creature coming towards us is going to be very different than a 3 foot to 4 foot tall person would see as a creature.
Yeah.
Right. Coming towards them. And it would be a more terrifying encounter. But I just go, you know, I had this bookmark when I was a child and I've saved it, and it had a unicorn on it. And it said, some things have to be believed to be seen.
Right. Right.
And we're so ready to dismiss things. But a lot of what we talk about on this podcast are things we don't understand. And you go, how do all these cultures that had no interaction with each other all come up with this serpentine beast?
Yep.
And, you know, how do we go, you know, it doesn't go away as much as there's a lot of, you know, no, this couldn't be real. This couldn't be real. You say that. And then there's a giant squid. Like,
yep. 100%. Yeah. You know, and that's these, you know, suddenly, you know, oh, it's dinosaur bones. They were just making stories to understand dinosaur bones. No, this is stuff they saw. This is stuff, you know, that did not make sense to them. And so they wrote it down. They orally traditioned it, you know, as long as they could. And somebody finally wrote it down. And I think the great serpents, the great dragons, I think they were here. I think they could still be down there. Like I said, Mammoth Cave, you can go visit Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, and you can go to Cave City, Kentucky, and you can go into this giant, amazing place. You know, that's the travel for this. You can also go to Serpent Mound. You can go to Alligator Mound. But the cave systems there, like I said, they're still finding new caves. We'll do a whole episode on Mammoth Cave at some point because it's got ghost stories. It's got some dark history. It's going to be a lot of fun. But the fact that this thing just goes on and on, most of Northeast America is Mammoth Caves are under it. And we don't know what's down there. And, you know, they are finding strange creatures, incredibly large serpents that are, you know, not python size, but pretty darn close, that have lived down there. It's, you know, and they're finding catfish that are living in these caves that are 10 feet long, 20 feet in diameter cave. And there's a 10-foot long catfish in it. What's it eating? How is it staying alive? How did it get that big? It's incredible to think this other world's down there and we're just barely touching the iceberg. So.
And eventually somebody will piss them off enough and then we're going to see them. And, you know, I think a lot of people who have these experiences and stuff too, you know, it's one thing to have the experience and get away, but there are people that don't get away. Yeah. You know, there are people that just disappear.
That's, you know, some of the native lore. The reason Mishipishu, the reason they give the copper offerings is there was one island out there that they considered, the Ojibwa clan considered it, this is the Holy Land. This is where Mishipishu lives. This is his island. And it's covered with copper. And so they would make offerings by sacrificing before going out there. And then they would take copper because it was an important resource for them. But only after they'd made offerings. And if they didn't make offerings, their boats wouldn't come back. And that was what happened a lot. You know, they would say, oh, they didn't make the right offering. They didn't, you know, they didn't do this. They didn't do that. And one of the early explorers of the area wrote that he was terrified because they put some pets in a bag and threw it off the water into the water, sealed it. And he was floored. He's like, what are you doing? They're like, well, we're appeasing the underwater panther. We're appeasing Mishipishu because we're taking you out to a dangerous area and you don't want any part of that. And so he wrote it down and, you know, journaled it. You know, and that's, but he's like, well, this is crazy. And sure enough, he said, well, the reason they're doing that is because they didn't do it on the last one and they lost a guy. So it's,
you know, it goes to, do you believe now whether or not there's actually a water god that they have to appease, or whether or not it's just a simple sort of belief that doing that combined enough sort of, I don't know if you want to call it mental strength or whatever, that helps with that sort of thing. But it's kind of like, how do people do thoroughly amazing things that there's no way scientifically, like the grandma who lifts the car off the kid, you know, like
Yeah.
you hear stories like that, and there has to be some belief system to it that outweighs, well, scientifically that's not the case, you
Yeah.
know.
And there are
Go
some
ahead.
cave drawings of Mishapishu that you can also visit up in Lake Erie. They're in Michigan. You actually have to go out on a boat to get to the island where they are, and they're still up there. And you see like several men, looks like a Viking ship almost, men with spears trying to fight this giant creature with horns, and it got the curly tail. It's pretty crazy to think that that's completely hundreds of miles from Serpent Mound, hundreds of miles from Alligator Mound. But it's the same beast. It's the same creature. And yes, the people migrated up there and migrated back and forth. But again, this is generations telling this same story of this same creature. And then Crosswick is right along that trail, which is just, wait a minute. Okay, so what did they see? And then again, cave entrances right there. Now, Crosswick is not Mothman Festival, but they do a Crosswick Festival, a Crosswick Serpent Festival now, but only recently. That started in 2006. So they just started it. And then they shut down for COVID, and they are rebringing it back next year. So you can definitely hit that when that comes around. I highly recommend Serpent Mound. It is such a beautiful drive out there. It is kind of off the beaten path, so it's not on any interstate. You have to kind of drive through some rural Ohio farmland to get there. Alligator Mound is actually in a housing development. So you actually can't just, it's not a park, it's a park in the housing development. What's sad is when you go there, it's people walking their dogs on it. It's just like, wait a minute, that's, come on, guys. You can walk them around it. That'd be fine.
But it's true. And, other cultures too. If you guys have stories about dragons in other cultures, share them with us. We'd love to hear about them.
Yes. And, and again, we talk Thunderbirds. There are things in the sky people have seen for generations, and we have plenty of stories of those we'll be going over at some point. There are plenty of stories of other creatures in Ohio, so we'll be visiting Ohio quite a bit. We'll be traveling all over the United States. So if you've got a story you want us to talk about, a place we should travel to, let us know. We will do the research. We will talk about it. But if you want a story to tell us, we love our holler stories. We had one last episode. If you had missed it, go back and listen. That was an amazing story. And please, we're wrapping up. Oh my gosh, guys. I can't believe the time. It flew by. This is literally like a dragon. So
it's like a dragon. And, I'll tell you, if the legend says to give an offering, I mean, please don't sacrifice your friends or your pets, because that's bad. But if it wants copper, bring it some copper.
Bring it some copper. Bring it, there's other things, just because it wanted those things back then, that's because it didn't have things like, you could throw out a PlayStation. I'm sure it would like that.
No, please do not. I do not want to get reports in our email about people dropping off like game stations and things like that.
That's true.
Because that's not
maybe
good.
Just
but
show it some films, just like hold up your phone and let it watch, some Netflix or something. It would be fine with that. So
I think it would appreciate Game of Thrones up until season 7.
Up until season 8. Anyway. Season such and such. But anyway, but thank you all so much for listening. As always, thank you again, Callie, our amazing producer. Thank you, Destiny, for the amazing theme song that you all are going to be listening to again soon. And destinybeard.com, destinybeardmusic.com, please.
It's going to be in the show notes. Don't worry.
All the fun things in the notes, and oh my gosh.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave us a review. We'd love to hear what you think. And for all you travelers out there, we wish you safe travels. And we can't wait to hear about your next adventure.
Yes. And as we close out, see you on the other side.
See you on the other side.